All right, let's talk some Ohio State football. Of course, the day was not necessarily based on the one marquee player that got away, Doug Nestor, a good one for the Buckeyes. We got Steve Hellwagon on the line from 247 Sports Bucknuts. Steve, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Mark. What's going on?
Well, you tell me. You're the guy. That's why we bring you on here to tell us what's going on. But that was a bit of a shocker to me to see that Doug Nestor chose Virginia Tech. Not necessarily a program that's getting much great publicity these days. They've got players leaving left and right through the transfer portal, not coming off a successful season at 6-7. But obviously there was something to allure Mr. Nestor, one of the top 75 players in the country, to go to Blacksburg, Virginia.
Yeah, I think that you look at it, and I think that Nestor was a guy who seemed to be kind of trending away from Ohio State for the last few weeks. He had been verbaled to Ohio State for 2 full years, and then when Urban Meyer retired in early December, I'm not sure what was going through his mind at that point, but he did not sign with Ohio State in December. Left things open, made visits to Penn State and Virginia Tech. And in the final analysis, he signed with Virginia Tech today. I think for whatever reason, Ryan Day was retained as the head coach at Ohio State. Greg Studrawa, still the offensive line coach at Ohio State. So those are the people who had been recruiting him. I don't know if it was an Ohio State thing, as much as the fact that maybe Virginia Tech sold him that he'd have a chance to play right away, whereas Ohio State's got a bunch of juniors and seniors that are probably going to play on the offensive line this coming season, although I guess Myers, who could be the center, is a sophomore, and Wyatt Davis will be a sophomore. I don't know what – I can't explain it. Maybe Doug Nestor, it's been reported at his press conference this afternoon, maybe he made an announcement about why Ohio State wasn't the place for him. But Ohio State came out of this okay. They got Enoch Vamahi from the state of Hawaii, and his national rating is not all that much farther below where Doug Nestor was. Both of them ranked somewhere between 100 and 125, I think, nationally. So that made out. Ohio State added a very intriguing prospect in DeJuan Jones later this evening from Indianapolis, Ben Davis, 6'8", 360 pounds. And as we understand it, he had some interest from a few Division I schools to play basketball at 6'8", 360 pounds. So we'll see how he fits in. Ohio State rebuilt its depth a little bit on the offensive line, adding Vamahi and DeJuan Jones here today. So some good, some bad, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. And really a rather uneventful signing day when you come right down to it. Ohio State had limited scholarships, only signed 17 guys total. 15 of those were in December, 2 more today, and that's it. So they've already got a head start on next season. Our account is they would be able to take somewhere between 20, 25 guys next year if everything pans out, probably closer to 25. So they've already got a few scholarships lined up for next year, verbal commitments. So already off to a good start for next year.
We've got Steve Hellwagon on the line from 247 Sports Bucknuts, where he is a Big Ten senior writer, joins us on a regular basis to talk Ohio State football. It appeared as though Ryan Day, to a certain extent, took a page out of Urban Meyer's book in regards to recruiting fast early. And as you mentioned, Steve, not a whole lot of drama typically for Urban Meyer on the final day, as opposed to a lot of these major schools, especially in the SEC, where there's all sorts of guys flipping back and forth and guys getting chased down on that final day. And it seems as though Urban Meyer always had things locked up early, and Ryan Day, for the most part, did the same.
Yeah, no question about it. Again, he was really made the head coach in early December. So a lot of the hard work had been done, Meyer and his staff, in the weeks leading up to that. So Yeah, I think pretty exciting stuff that again, Ohio State's at the full complement of 85 scholarships. People will ask, well, Michigan and Penn State have signed over 20 guys. Those are, they're direct competitors. Alabama, the number one class in the country. I have no idea what they signed. I'm going to guess 25 guys, give or take one or two either way, probably. So that kind of explains. Some of the rankings are stilted toward quantity over quality. I know the average star ranking for Ohio State's class is still very high comparatively with other schools. Certainly the Buckeyes got some star power with Zach Harrison at defensive end, Garrett Wilson at wide receiver from Texas. Also, Harry Miller, offensive lineman from Georgia. So the Buckeyes did pretty well. Jamison Williams, wide receiver out of St. Louis, was a guy that was bumped up after the All-Star game into the top 100. So I think that they got some guys that are difference makers. Today, Mark, was really a remarkable day. So I'm trying to get my system together here. Remarkable day from the standpoint that Coach Day was available. The 5 new coaches that he hired at Ohio State, 4 on defense and Mike Yursich on offense, they were all available as well to the media. Justin Fields was available to the media, the transfer from Georgia, who's kind of been put front and center for this program right now. And then also 6 early enrolling freshmen were also available to the media today, including Zach Harrison and Garrett Wilson. And really kind of a landmark day, I think, gave us plenty of things that we'll be able to talk about over the next week or two, and maybe all the way to the start of spring football in early March.
So Justin Fields is obviously the face of this program out of nowhere to a certain extent, not to discount J.K. Dobbins and others, but he is the quarterback and was the number 1 rated player in the nation coming out of high school. And so you've been exposed to him. I haven't seen him interviewed that I can remember. Well, what type of kid is he? How does he come off as a leader, as a personality?
I thought he came off pretty unassuming. I think he made a good first impression on people today at Ohio State. His comments, people asked him, how did you feel about the Alabama game? When the team's struggling or whatever, and just the competitive nature. Did you feel like you should have been out there to lead the team instead of, Fromm, and different things like that? And he always had the right political answer, which was, I had a role to play. I was there to support my teammates. I was there to support Fromm, and definitely pulling for our team to do well, and was just eager and willing and ready to do whatever the coaches asked me to do. So to me, his answers always seemed like he was putting the team first. He was asked if he was concerned about fitting in. He said no, not really, because he'd already had some acquaintances from last year when he and some of the guys may have been at all-star games together or whatever. So I think that it was a comfortability factor. He was asked if Ohio State was his preordained spot. Did he know? When did he know? And his quarterback guru down in Georgia, a guy named Quincy Avery, also had worked with Dwayne Haskins. So you got to believe, as Dwayne Haskins is breaking records each week, the wheels are starting to spin that Dwayne Haskins probably leaving Ohio State. Jake Fromm is not leaving Georgia. He's got at least one more year to be the quarterback at Georgia. And it doesn't take a mathematician to put 2 and 2 together and see that this is how this marriage kind of came about. And he readily admitted, he said Avery did not push him to Ohio State, but Haskins gave Coach Ryan Day a strong recommendation that was passed back through Quincy Avery, it seems. And Quincy Avery and everybody gave Fields great recommendations going back the other direction. So it was kind of a matchup that Fields had several schools in mind, but he said always in the back of his head, he just kind of envisioned Ohio State would be the place to beat. And as he searched through it, that's what he came with, and that's why he ended up at Ohio State. So really, I thought it was a good story. I thought that it was, I think so much has been made about his situation. I think they asked him about his transfer situation. Do you expect to be cleared, etc.? He's like, that's all for my parents, the attorneys, everyone else. The NCAA is working on that. He said, I wanted my job in this whole thing to be about football. So he is working out at Ohio State. They had a tremendous workout at Ohio State this morning with their team, according to all sources. And, he's right there in the middle of it. So they produced a video of their workout yesterday, and he's the first guy pictured in the video. I mean, you have 13 returning starters, and this kid who's never played it down at Ohio State is the first guy pictured in the video. It comes up on his face, basically, as he's going through some kind of workout. So I don't know that we can call him the face of the program just yet, but he's moving toward that pretty quickly, it looks like.
Yeah, Ohio State fans are going to be expecting a whole lot considering what Dwayne Haskins accomplished this past season with 50 touchdown passes and a Rose Bowl win, and Justin Fields coming to Columbus as rated the #1 player coming out of high school 2 years ago to Georgia. We've got about 50 folks on the line. Do us a big favor, support the channel by liking the videos, and of course, share the videos and subscribe to the channel. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Steve, I know you've had a long, long day. You've been through this grind a zillion times, and now you got to do it twice a year in December and in February.
Yeah, I think December is where most of the heavy lifting is really happening. They even did have some suspense back in December with Zach Harrison announcing that day that he was going to go to Ohio State. So, I think for the student athletes, and this is probably a happy medium. What it allows them, above all else, is to have a quiet holiday season, I suppose. I don't think it really impacts the number of guys who are going to enroll early for January semesters and those type of things. Those numbers have seemed kind of at Ohio State to be in that 5, 6, 7 a year range pretty much in the last 4 or 5 years. So that really hasn't changed. But to me, it allows those guys, as of mid-December, the guys who sign, they're done with the process. They don't have to worry about visits. They don't have to worry about people calling them, texting them, reporters. The situation is over for those kids. In a perfect world, given how tough injuries can be in the game of football, it wouldn't bother me if this August the 1st, before the guys even play a snap of senior year of high school, they could lock it in and maybe go to 3 different days, one in August, one in December, one in February. I don't know, but at any rate, that's probably not going to happen because I think the colleges would prefer to see how the kids do as they're seniors in high school. If there's an issue on or off the field with them, scholarships can be pulled or whatever at that point. So, and above board, not the bad stories we're hearing of offer 100 kids for 20 spots and then have to tell 30 of them, no, we don't have a spot for you, or however it works out. That we've seen some stories written about that type thing. I'm of a mind it should be definitely stilted toward the student athlete. The colleges have all of this advantages kind of built in on their end of this. And I guess I would advocate for the student athlete to have as many rights in all of the processes as possible.
Got about 50 folks on the line. Steve Hellwagon, Big Ten senior writer for 247 Sports, Bucknuts, the Ohio State platform right there on 247. Steve, we appreciate you stopping by as always. We'll let you get back to the basketball season.
Yep, game of Penn State tomorrow. They're going to honor Urban Meyer and the football team. So if you're watching on ESPN, it'll either happen during a first half timeout or at halftime. They'll bring all the players and coach out. They may not show the whole thing, but they'll at least show them with a little cameo holding up the Rose Bowl and maybe the Big Ten trophies. And 13-1, pretty good year. There were only 3 teams in the country that got that many wins: Alabama, Clemson, obviously winning it all, and Ohio State. So lots to celebrate still, even though it wasn't the playoffs. So that's how it is.
Yeah, I find it pretty amusing that Oklahoma loses to Alabama. Certainly got throttled in the first half, but made it a somewhat of a game. They lose by 11 points to what was the #1 team in the country to finish 13-1. Ohio State beats a top 10 team in Washington impressively to a certain extent, but then they falter at the end. They win by 5, and they put that together as Ohio State elevated above Oklahoma and Notre Dame, despite not getting to the college.
Well, Oklahoma had 2 losses, right? They lost to Texas and Alabama.
Yes.
Right?
I'm sorry. You are right. They lost to Texas and they lost the bowl game to
I don't want to correct the master, but
you are correct.
Show, but
That's right. Thank you for correcting me. I certainly correct enough people on here that was certainly I was due that. Yes, of course they lost 2 games because they had the same record as the Buckeyes, and that was the heated debate. Forget Georgia, that was the heated debate, and then of course lost their second game against the Tide. Steve, we appreciate you so much stopping by. And for the record, Steve, 26 signees for Alabama today. 23 in the ESPN 300. That is a record.
The rich just keep getting richer, and what can you say? They have a juggernaut. They have a machinery. It is an NFL factory. I know in the last 4 drafts, I think Alabama and Ohio State are tied with 12 first-round picks. I don't know what Alabama is projected to have this year. I know Ohio State could have as many as 3. Bosa and Haskins seem almost automatic. Draymond Jones maybe late in the first round. Alabama, if they have more than 3, they would take the lead in that category over, and that would be a 6-year period. But those 2, they, the talent in is the talent out is kind of the thing like that. And at least in the Meyer years, and I don't want to cast an aspersion on Day because of the way this all happened, but Meyer was always top 5. A lot of years he was 2 and Alabama was 1. And, it's going to be up to Day to see if he can keep Ohio State on that plateau and that platform, both with recruiting and with championships and final results. So we'll see how it goes.
Steve, we always appreciate the insight, the information, and mostly the conversation. We will see you soon, sir.
All right, Mark. Take care.